Welcome to Soaring Through the Depths. I'm Andrea Lauren, and I'm here today with my partner, Lindsey Marin, and I am going to be interviewing her as we discuss all things Integrative Multidimensional Healer. So thank you, Lindsey, for being with us.
Thank you.
I'm just going to give a little bit of a introduction here about Lindsey herself. And so Lindsey is an integrative multidimensional healer and spiritual mentor. She is able to provide through interactions with the energetic body, healing on the physical, emotional, and spiritual levels. She does this in a way that empowers others and changes their energetic vibration so that they can actually begin to heal themselves. So I just want to give a little idea, or from my own experience, of how you have impacted me with your healing abilities. So since I've been working with you from the moment we met, honestly, you have helped heal me in ways that I did not realize was even possible. I know that within the first time, we talked about this before in one of our previous podcasts, but that the first time I met you, we were at your workshop, your spiritual workshop, and you did a group healing for all of us, energetic healing. And I remember just being blown away because as I was laying there, I could feel the energy moving through my body, and the closer you would get, the stronger it would get, moving through the limbs, and just all around me, I could feel the energy moving and working through the room. So that was really, really neat to experience. But now, especially with us working together, there are times where, I rely on you for healing, or I come to you and I'm like, I'm not in a good place, or like, I don't know what's going on. And you are able to immediately check in with me. And if it's a physical symptom, it starts to dissipate. If it's an emotional problem or situation, I can feel myself start to get balanced and centered within minutes. So it really is a beautiful thing to watch, and let alone experience. So that's just kind of an idea of what I've experienced with you. Just keeping it broad so we don't get carried away, because I have hundreds and hundreds of stories of how you have impacted me with your healing. So all right.
That makes me happy.
Oh, well, it makes me happy too, because I'm very thankful for you. So, okay. So I'm just going to jump into it. I have some questions here that I want to ask. And so we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
So how old were you when you started becoming interested in energy healing? Or when you were like drawn to it? What age were you?
I didn't know what any of this was. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? There's a phone. So looking back, I can see how this kind of happened over like the course of my life, but I really didn't know what energy healing was until I was about 23, 24, when I was going through some health problems. I was diagnosed with epilepsy when I was 18. I had a grand mal seizure and was put on medication for something that I felt like wasn't a problem. It was more of a precaution. I just couldn't understand how I could have this medical problem that just popped out of nowhere, that didn't come up on any tests, or there was nothing physically wrong with me. And so that kind of like led me to this question that never stopped. Why is this happening? And why did it suddenly happen? And why can't I fix it? So I was on medication for throughout college. And then after college, I decided I didn't like how it made me feel. I was just it made me tired. I just wasn't completely myself. I decided that I wanted to get off all medications, and talked with my neurologist and slowly weaned off of this medication, and thought, okay, well, I'm healthier. And with her help, she was saying, well, you're healthier now. You exercise regularly, you sleep better, you eat better. So we really both thought, okay, maybe this is something that I grew out of, it'll be okay. But as soon as I got off my medication, I started having symptoms of having seizures again. And there was one day where I can remember just like looking up at the sky, and I wasn't very like, not a spiritual person. I was borderline atheist at the time, and just kind of like looked up at the sky and said, I need help, like whatever, show me what to do. It was just, I give up, and put it out there just to God, to whoever was going to listen. And I think it was probably within a few days, I happened to be at Barnes and Noble looking at books and stumbled upon the health, self-help section. And this book stood out to me, and it was called Energy Medicine, and it said, heal yourself. And I picked it up, and that started the chain reaction. So that was when I was about 24. I took a bunch of classes. I flew all over the United States to take these classes. It was the first time I stepped out of my comfort zone and did anything on my own like this. And I just couldn't stop. It just made so much sense. It was all about healing your body through manipulating the energies of the body, using acupressure points, using yoga stretches, things that help energy move and balance itself within the body. And it just kind of went from there.
Okay. Do you feel like that could have been the beginning stages or like the start of your awakening?
I do actually. And I did want to touch back on, we kind of talked about the awakening process in our last episode, but didn't explain exactly what that is. I know
Okay.
we had done it. Yeah.
You want to do that real quick?
Well, it's different for both of us.
Well, in your case, because it's interviewing you.
Yeah. In my case, it's becoming more self-aware. It's connecting to something higher than yourself. And it can be something that happens like at the drop of a hat, or it can be something that happens over time, which for me, it's been happening for a long period of time. For Andrea, it was like, boom, happening one day. And but it's getting back in touch with yourself, with your true self, with your soul. It's aligning with source, with God, with the universe. It's understanding that there's so much more around, like going on around us than what we're taught to believe. And it's knowing that we're not alone. We're always guided and shown how to live our lives in ways that we're not taught to, like in regular everyday society, we're not taught to see. And it just makes life is easier when you start to tap into these things, and it's more beautiful, meaningful, everything.
When you're in the flow.
Yeah, it's being
Universal
in the
flow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's following the guidance that's there, that most of us don't even know that it's there.
Yeah, that energy is always around us, and it's always available to us. And when you align yourself with that, then everything starts to fall into place for you.
Mm-hmm.
So
without even trying half the time.
Right. You really don't have to try. You just have to align.
Yeah.
And
You just have to align and follow the guidance, which we will get it more into, because that's a whole other.
What interested you about the energy healing? Like once you found that book and you were looking at it, like what drew you towards that? Just the fact that you wanted to be able to heal yourself?
Yeah, that was number one. Number one was I wanted to be able to heal myself, because I didn't believe that I had something wrong with me. And I could not understand how one day I was fine and the next day I had a seizure disorder. So what led up to that? And it just became a digging process. And the energy medicine gave me, I want to say, tools to understand underneath of what was going on in my physical body, what was going on in my energetic body that was causing those symptoms. It just made sense. So right. It made sense. It just gave me clarity. And I've always been somebody who's like, if you can tell me something all day long, but if there's no reason behind it, then I can't accept it. So I couldn't accept the seizure disorder, even though I had symptoms. I couldn't accept it until I became able to understand the reason behind it.
Yeah.
And for me, it ended up being, from what I believe, it's a lot of things. It actually was part of my awakening process. It was part of getting me on track to learn to heal myself so that I could start healing others. So from the big picture, that's what it meant for me. And that's been the most life-changing thing for me, the most important thing in my life thus far. And it also,
Well, for you, I just want to add, so for,
yeah.
for those who, a little fun fact about Lindsey is when things click for you and it makes sense, you become very passionate about it and then you'll just drive with it. So I could see how you would be interested in that once it made sense to you and you're like, I could use this. This could help me. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
you're
can,
right. Yeah,
yeah,
totally. Yeah. So it became a passion.
yeah,
And then it was like, I can't stop. I want to learn more. I want to add more tools to my toolkit. I want to tell this to the world.
yeah.
It just went, it snowballed from there.
That's
Yeah.
that's one of Lindsay's MOs. So you'll, you'll
Oh,
see that as we move through our podcast and journey together. You'll see more of that with
thank
her.
you.
But okay, so is this something like within the healing or the desire to heal or finding yourself in that spiritual aspect within your life and your journey? Were there any signs that you look back and now and could see where that filtered throughout your childhood at all?
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you're not familiar with the term empath, I wasn't either until later on, like college. Like I didn't know what empathy even was until I was in college. I was a social work major. I taught to feel for people. That was a big part of my process too, was learning to feel for other people on an emotional level, and identify with what people are going through and what stages they are and why. Um, Looking back, I was the kid that cried all the time when I was little. I cried when I heard something on the news. I cried when I heard something on the radio. I cried when I didn't understand something. I cried all the time. I cried and I felt for people when I still remember my dad, my sister, who was like, she was the problem child, who, and my dad and her butting heads, and I would go in and try to mediate, and I'd be like, this is how she feels. She feels unloved. And I was like 10, and he's like, well, what else am I supposed to do? She's like, she's being out of control. But I could feel for her. And so looking back now, my mom always would explain Lindsay's sensitive. She would always say she's sensitive. And I didn't really understand what that meant. But now it's funny looking back because on an energetic level, I'm sensitive. She didn't know really what she was saying, other than I cried a lot.
Right.
but but I've always kind of put myself in other people's shoes and taken on their feelings and felt for them.
Right.
There was another moment when I was a teenager. I read the book Siddhartha, which is about uh, enlightenment, like Buddhist enlightenment, and it's about the Buddha becoming the guy becoming a Buddha. And I had this moment where I was sitting on the school bus where I was just staring out the window and thinking about this book that I read and this reaching of enlightenment. It was about meditation and coming back to the self and finding love and finding truth. And I sat on that school bus staring out the window, and it was like suddenly these floodgates open, and I had all of this information that I didn't know where it was coming from, but I was like, I knew the meaning of life. I knew why I was here. I knew everything in an instant. And I got off the bus and I started telling my sister, I was like, life is beautiful. It all makes sense. And she's like, I'm going to go get mom. She was like freaked out. And after that, I call that my remembrance because I felt like something opened the doors and it all flooded back in. And after that, it kind of, as a teenager, I just put that on the side. It
Right.
didn't come up again really until, other than being a social worker, learning to feel for people, learning to understand people. But also, I was also really drawn to art therapy because I was really into art too. And that was just something else that it was looking beneath the surface of where people were, like what it was another way of diving into the psyche, diving into the emotional state of people to create healing in an alternative way. So I didn't end up pursuing it, but it was like it was a stepstone
Okay.
toward just wanting to heal people. And the
Yeah.
other thing, because I could talk all day, is my mom is a nurse. She worked in a doctor's office when I was in college, and she got all kinds of sample medications. And so she would always, when we would come home, she'd be like, here, take this, and this, like, keep this with you. If you get a cold, if you get this. And I loved diagnosing and treating my friends. It probably wasn't the safest thing to do, but, but, you know, I remember my roommate, like, she's like, look, I'm like, oh, you have ringworm. Wait, I have something for that.
Yeah.
You know, so I kept, my purse was like a pharmacy. And although I slowly evolved out of that, I always really loved diagnosing and treating people around me.
Like evolved out of Western medicine?
Evolved, yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, thank you.
And so I just wanted to add really quickly to the empath aspect is that when you're crying like that, like it's releasing energy. So it's
Mm,
it's very healthy to be able to express your emotions when you're feeling something so deeply, because I myself am an empath as well. And I think a lot of people that I've met along my path that are also empaths were taught at a young age, you know, to like stop crying, you're being too sensitive,
right.
you're doing this, you're doing that.
To bottle it
Then,
up. Hmm.
right. And then they start having issues with like depression or anxiety or, you know, being misdiagnosed with other like bipolar, schizophrenia, like all these different things. But it's because you're taking on so much energy from your surroundings and from other people, and you have to be able to release that. So it was actually very healthy what you were doing, crying,
Wow.
because you weren't holding that in. You know, you were experiencing it, but you were releasing it at the same time. So
Oh, I never thought about that.
yeah, so
I
that's
love
really
that.
good that you do that. I'm just bringing this up for those of our viewers that
Yeah.
may be able to um you know, resonate with that, and just to, you know, remember, like, encourage you that it is okay to be able to express yourself in that way, because you
It's
can't hold
important.
on to that. You have to be able to release it and let it go.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Wow,
okay. Oh, go ahead.
that's beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the next question I have for you is, how have your healing techniques evolved since you've begun practicing energy medicine?
Okay. So when I started this, when I started energy medicine, I knew nothing about the energy body. I didn't know there was an energy body. And if you're not familiar, basically it's an exact replica of your body that is an energy form. So you have like an energy hand, an energy foot, an energy, but it also expands beyond you in the aura, which is the surrounding protective layer of energy around you, um, and around every living thing. I knew nothing about any of this until I started learning it. And I really did not understand how to utilize my intuition. I know that I had it in there, but I did not use it in healing. I was very nervous, very unsure of myself. And so energy medicine is actually Eden Energy Medicine, which has been just, it was just such a great starting point for me. They used a lot of charts and protocols to get the healing to create balance and movement of energy within the body. So there wasn't a lot of having to go follow my intuition or having to feel energy. If I didn't feel something, I could energy test, which is also called muscle testing in kinesiology, and it's using the muscles of the body to as feedback to get yes or no answers from the body, from the energy body. So I actually still use muscle testing a lot. Um, and that's kind of developed a little bit over time too. But I began with this and was able to physically follow something to create the healing. And eventually I got to a point where it's just, this is what we're talking about with like being led places. So it was one day I was at a family event and my uncle sprained or broke his ankle. And he was sitting there on the couch and my mom said, "Can't you do anything for him, Lindsay?" And I looked at her and I was like, "I don't have my charts with me." So I realized then and there, I need something that I can take on the go, because I can't be waiting around for charts when there's an actual emergency to look at, okay, which point do I hold? It's a lot of like acupressure points, and I needed something that was that I could travel with. So I learned Reiki. Reiki is more fluid. It is a little bit more intuition, definitely more intuition, but they give you hand positions to get you started. So getting in the door, it was a little uncomfortable for me, but it allowed me to have something to take that I could take along with me and not have to study a chart for. And then from there, I started doing a little bit more on the emotional side. I became, and I'm not really sure when this happened, but slowly over this course of time, I've gotten really into the emotional healing. So I actually learned theta healing, which is about digging under the emotions and finding out the root cause of a certain emotion, where it stems from in your subconscious, bringing it to the surface and releasing it and replacing it with a new positive belief that promotes emotional healing and also can trickle into physical healing. So that kind of took care of the emotional side. And I also did quantum touch, which was a thing with aligning the spine with energy, which that was just fun. And just like I've like gotten into like a little bit of everything as far as different healing techniques. Then I found reconnective healing. So a client of mine who I'd been seeing forever, and she became one of my really good friends. She found this guy, Eric Pearl, who's doing reconnective healing. And she's like, sent me this video of him and said, you need to watch this. He's going to blow your mind. And I watched it and I was like, my mind is blown. So she and I went and took the training together for reconnective healing. And what that did for me, reconnective healing is more of, it's a hands-off healing modality. There's no touching. It's you put your hands over the person and you expand energy around them. You bring in this reconnective healing frequency, that's this high vibrational frequency, and you expand it around the person's body, which brings up the energy, the energetic vibration of their body, which higher vibrations are health, healing, wellness, happiness, all those things. And when your body is in that, your energy body is in that state, the lower vibe things like illness, sadness, negative emotions kind of can't thrive anymore. So I started doing this, and with reconnective healing, they wanted you to only practice reconnective healing. You actually like signed a contract and said, I will only practice this by itself. You can do Reiki on the side, or you can do energy medicine on the side, but you can't mix them because it changes the way that its effect.
Okay.
So I was like, well, this is like the best thing ever. I'm going to put everything else on the side and just do this. And that's what I've been doing for the past 5-6 years. What it taught me was to get out of that protocol mindset, and it was really hard for me to learn this because it went from knowing about all these different energy systems of the body and how to work with them to put your hands there and go. And I remember the first time I did it in practice, I was looking around at everybody and I was like, but what are we doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing? And it really was retraining my brain, because what they would do is when you do reconnective healing, people will have what is called registers, and you'll see little changes in the body, and it's just their reaction to these frequencies. So you'll see like their eyelids will twitch. And this is something you can't do voluntarily. I've seen people's eyelids twitch to in a way I'm like, you can't do that on your own. And I've seen it on people who have never experienced any kind of energy healing before. They're different like their breathing changes. They can have muscle twitches, and they would walk around the room and show us, like they'd put like a cell phone in between us and the person being healed, and they would still have their eyelashes twitching, or they'd put like a metal pan in between us just to show us that the energy, even though we weren't touching each other, even though we were far apart or there was something between us, it was still working because we're bringing up this vibration around. And really it was about being playful and following the energy and having fun. And that made it easier to get out of my brain a little bit.
Right.
So yeah, so it was more like, move around the body. And if, right here over the feet, that feels fun, let's play with that. Let's stretch that and expand it. So I realized I didn't have to be consciously doing something to allow healing to happen. I just had to allow the energy and follow it. And really what it came down to is I'm not the decider over who heals and how they heal. The energy decides. This higher frequency, and ultimately God, source, the universe decides, and the person's soul in themselves. decides how the healing is going to take place. I'm just the facilitator. So getting that out of my brain made everything start to flow better. Like like my confidence raised, my intuition took off, and my ability to heal people has like skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I've seen just in the year and a half that we have been in each other's lives, how your gifts and abilities within your healing has just grown and evolved tremendously. And along with like your confidence, and you really are you really are evolving, taking all of this knowledge that you've learned over all of all of your years of practicing all these different modalities, and integrating it with your authentic like soul self. And so it just continues to evolve and morph and change. And so
Yeah.
it's really neat to watch, for
And
sure.
and hence the term integrative as part of this title that I've taken on, because I am getting to a point where I've kind of pushed reconnective healing to the side a little bit. I'm still using sort of the same structure for the healing sessions, because I really like how they do a half hour session, um, and the way that they structure it. But I feel like I've lately, over the past, what was like maybe 6 months or so,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit longer. It was before Corona and quarantine and everything. It was that this really started to take off. Um, that I started getting into this new space of this healing that's coming. It's my own, finding my own. And what's empowering about it is that there's no contract with that. So I can talk with people after, and I can add in I can give them an energy medicine technique that might go along with something that popped up during the healing, or I can give them feedback. A lot of some of energy medicine is talking about the symbolism behind, well, it's not just energy medicine, but I'm really into the emotions behind physical ailments. So I'm able to dive into that and give people information. Okay, well, if you have a stomach issue, I spent a lot of time around your stomach. There was a lot of healing going on there, and stomach symbolizes worry. So where do you have worry in your life? And kind of digging into the emotional level, because I really do believe that everything starts on an emotional level before it manifests into the physical level. And that's just something that, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, that's one of the things I love about how you're integrating your own techniques and your own style with that, because reconnective healing, yes, it's great, and it is playful, and it is fun, and it's light, and it's airy, and that holds its own beauty within that. But that's another way that you've grown exponentially, is now working on the whole self, including like the lower aspects that people don't necessarily want to look at, or they're not taking that into consideration, but wondering why they're going through what they're going through. So
Right.
you being able to heal on a high vibrational level, but then also allowing yourself to look and see, okay, this could be because of worry, this could be because of trauma, this could be because of this or that. And so you're able to like start bringing that up and healing that too. So you're healing on like a whole level, which I think is
Yeah.
really, really cool.
It's fun. I love doing that.
Yeah.
And I
You're
mean,
really good at
reconnected
it.
healing, it hits all of those aspects, because it addresses the energy body as a whole. But with me, I find that when I can talk and interact with people, my vibration goes to a different level. And the words that come out of my mouth actually have a vibration to them that makes changes too. So, and for me, as much as I love just doing the healing work, I know that there's a whole other aspect that comes through when I'm able to actually interact and talk with somebody.
Right.
So I needed that. I needed that to be, it just was me. I needed that to be part of my healing process with people. Yeah.
Well,
And
that's the
that's,
best thing you can do is just be yourself, because that's what you came
yeah.
here to do. And so when you do, work and honor and operate from your true authentic self, then you're going to heal better than you ever could.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And
by
I'm
trying to
slowly,
follow somebody else's ways of doing things.
yeah. And I kind of always knew underneath it all that one day I would begin to do something that was my own.
Right.
I kind of had this underlying knowing, and it's really fun because right now I'm starting to step into that, and you helped me give it a title, which is beautiful. Spirit helped me give
Yeah,
it
that
a
was
title.
spirit. I just relayed the message. So let me see. So can you describe for us, for our audience, what an integrative multidimensional healer is? I know we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but if you could just like sum it up, how would you do that?
All right, well, you're going to help me with this a little bit. So this is a newer term that we've kind of put together because I was looking for something to explain what is this that I'm doing. So we did explain a little bit with the integrative, and that is that I integrate the mind, body, and spirit into the healing as a whole, because they're all three aspects are important, and they're all related. They all affect each other. The other thing is collecting from my experience thus far with the different types of healing modalities that I've acquired over the years, and utilizing those where necessary. So being able to say, okay, this is more of a physical issue, this is more of an emotional issue, and help to give people not just techniques to heal themselves, but perspective, a change in perspective, to be able to see it in a different light that can help them begin to heal themselves.
Right.
So that would be more you have something to add?
No, I was just gonna say how that's like you don't have people just come to you to say, okay, I'm going to heal you. You're teaching them how to do it
Right.
themselves.
Right.
And that goes such a long way, because those people will learn and then they can also help others as well.
Mhm.
Or it starts to open them up to, their spiritual path, or, their purpose, or what they're supposed to be doing. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to point that out. But the
Yeah.
multidimensional aspect,
Mm-hmm.
that's the really cool part, I think. And spirit, I actually channeled this because when we were trying to like come up with what are you, because you're so rare and unique in your own way. It's like, what are you? And it was actually Archangel Raphael who said she's an integrative multidimensional healer. So we were like, okay, can you explain what this is? Can you clarify? So the multidimensional aspect comes from her starseed lineage. um, just naturally her soul resonates and vibrates on a ninth dimensional level. So she does pull the energy and vibration from her, the vibration of her soul. So she's pulling it from the ninth dimension, but also using source energy, which is here and everywhere. And even accessing on the sixth and seventh dimensional levels. Again, this is all like frequency vibration. It's just energy. But
The
each,
higher the level, the less human-like, the more godlike,
right.
which is the more um,
The higher evolved it
the
is.
higher evolved, and also it's closer to love, like pure love.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
cleaner,
Cleaner.
lighter source fuel,
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
So, and it's strong. It's very strong energy, and you have to know what you're doing when you're using it. Um, and you also have to be able to house that energy within your physical body, which I think is really neat, because if you look at where you're at now, the steps you had to take in regards to like your diet and your lifestyle changes and choices, and over time has prepared you for where you're at now to be able to hold that frequency to do the healing that you're doing. So I think that's really cool.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And the ninth dimensional stuff has kind of like come in more recently. And I do notice still that when I am doing healing work with people, I shake often. And it actually feels good, but I
Yeah.
shake. And that, I think we had talked about that. That was something that kind of goes along with it, that's that coming through, and it's also integrating. And I've had a lot of years of being foggy brain that was unexplainable, that I've now identified as energetic downloads, like new information, like upgrades, like how you would upgrade your phone, like an
Yeah.
upgrade to my to my energy
Physical.
field.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it all just kind of like fits and makes sense. And this stuff that I'm doing now I've been for so long, I was like, when am I going to reach my full potential? When am I going to know everything? When am I going to have all these abilities? And it's just so funny looking back how it happened so naturally. It's not something you can rush because everything happens in divine time when it's supposed to.
Yep.
All you can do is do the work, and it will slowly fall into place for you.
Yeah.
So it is a beautiful process, but there's, no room for impatience in it at all.
The best thing you can do is learn to surrender to
Surrender.
divine timing, because
Mhm.
it is always on point. It is always
Right.
perfect. And if you can release the need or the desire to want things to come faster, you're
Mm-hmm.
missing what you need, the lessons you
Right.
in the time that you need to be able to do what you're going to do when you finally reach that point that the divine timing has placed it in your lap. So
Mhm.
all parts of it are important.
Right.
Yeah, it took me a long time to learn how to surrender to divine timing.
Same. I think it doesn't happen until you can look back and realize where it was all along.
Yeah,
Like, oh, I wanted this to happen so bad, but if it had happened then, I wouldn't have known what to do with it, or it
right.
wasn't the right timing.
Yeah.
And then you can look back and see where it actually fell into place perfectly
Mm-hmm.
with your life situation, with everything. And then that slowly gets the brain to start to trust, okay, I can trust that this is going to continue as long as I keep up doing my side of the work, which is following, being open, allowing myself to evolve, and like listening to my guidance. And I don't mean like physically listening. It's like listening with your full body.
Right.
Sometimes it's listening with it. Sometimes it's listening with your ears, for some of us. But for me,
Yeah.
it's been more of a feeling,
Right.
because we do all take in energy in different ways with the different senses. And for me, a lot of it came from feeling, and that goes hand in hand with the empath, because that is feeling. So a lot of what I've done has started with, I feel, and I say it when I talk, like I feel this, I feel like it. Listen to when you're talking, because you might be actually saying you might be like verbalizing how it is that you receive energy best.
Yeah.
If you're saying a lot of "I hear you," or that you might be more clairaudient. If you're feeling, saying "I'm feeling things,"
Right.
then you might be more, it's clairsentient, which is clear feeling. But that's also involved into um, clear knowing, clear cognizance,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't know I was doing. I think that you helped me you became my sort of my translator in all of that,
Just
because
kind
I
of
did.
pointing it out for you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also it's also developed into clairvoyance. I see things now. Uh, there's I'm not sure what you would call the one where you smell energy, but I smell energy
Yes, we were just talking
sometimes.
about that the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also sometimes hear things and clairaudience, but it's not like somebody's outside of my ear. It's just like inside, something that kind of pops in there that I hear that sounds like my thought, but may or may not be my thought. Some of it's like, that couldn't have come from me.
Right.
So yeah, but that is all newer over the past like 2 years, that this is all kind of, and it really has been since I started to step into myself and allow the intuition to flow and start
Along
to
with your
learn to
upgrades.
trust.
Yeah.
What's that?
With your upgrades too.
And my upgrades, all my upgrades. Yeah. So,
Okay, so let's see. We want to kind of watch the time a little bit so we don't drag this out.
okay.
So I'll ask you two more questions.
Okay.
Where do you see yourself in the future with this?
So I love what I'm doing now, which is seeing people individually. And I've kind of shifted from a goal of healing people. I used to feel like somebody would come to me with a pain and I needed to heal that pain. Now I know that when people come to me, it's more than that. Their soul is ready for transcendence. Their soul is ready to awaken. And if they are already awakening, they're ready for an upgrade. And so I feel like my role is to bring through the energy vibration to match where they are, but also to start to sort of change their perspective and start helping open doors that allow them to start seeing where where their guidance is taking them. And it's been so neat to watch people go from like 0 to 100 in such a short, in like months, sometimes longer. Sometimes I see people, they go away for a little bit and then they come back later. But some of them, it's rapid, and it's just it's like I get to be with them in the beginning stages where they just have an ailment, and then it turns into this beautiful spiritual growth, where I know one of my really good friends, who I started working with, she just was in a really low place with, I think it was like relationship stuff. And through working with her, it started to go from like, let's figure out, empowering you in this situation, to now she's doing healing and she's doing all of this stuff. Like it totally did, like flipped around really fast, and her spiritual path accelerated like really, really quickly. And it's just so neat to see that I got to be there along with her and check in here and there. And when something would arise, I would, like where she was stuck, it wasn't me telling her, this is what you should do. It was me saying, well, let's look at it this way. And then it brought clarity. And then she was able to open up another door to go to another place. So it really is about, I love like my shirt I wear sometimes, perspective is everything, because when you can change the way somebody looks at something, you're able to open up doors for them that they may not have been able to open themselves, or at least not yet. So anyway, I see myself doing more of that. I love like following people on their spiritual path and using that, because things heal along with that. They go hand in hand. And for me, it was healing my body, but it started me on a spiritual path that's gotten me to where I am now, and it's continuing me into the future. I'm not done learning. I'm not going to be done learning ever. And I'm just so thankful for where I started, that it started with a seizure disorder. I do want to do more of teaching. I love that we are starting this podcast and we're getting this information out to people, and just helping people wake up and realize that they have options other than what the medical. So just helping people realize that they have options outside of the norm, what we're taught to believe, and that following this makes for beautiful growth and a happier life. Yeah. So teaching podcasts, that's where I see myself.
Growing, learning
nonstop. Yeah.
We'll just continue to take you further and further from there.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, so we don't get too carried away, because we could just talk forever about this stuff. But really quickly, if somebody wanted to reach out to you to have a healing session with you, how would they do that?
So I've been doing more sessions over the phone and over FaceTime or Skype, which has been, I still will do them in office, but I actually really like working with people from a distance, because I feel like I can tune in with people with their energy almost more clearly when I'm not seeing their body in front of me. Energy has no limits, and there's no space and time limits there. So really all that I do is I tune in with the person, as I say, and I can tune in with anybody at any time, and I can access their energy as if it's right in front of me. I can pull the energy in right in front of me and work on you as if you're already like right there. And I get great feedback from this. People feel the same things that they'd feel if they were in person, and I get really good information that way. And so I can do them over the phone and over Skype, whatever, works best. But the best way to start out would be to shoot us an email at soaringthroughthedepths@gmail.com and put in the subject healing session with Lindsey.
You can also reach out to us on our Instagram page or Facebook as well, and shoot us a message through there, or even just leave a comment below, and we will go from there.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and allowing our audience to get to know just a little bit more about you. It'll be exciting and fun for everyone to continue to learn more about you and about me as we journey through our podcast path.
Yes.
So we are super excited about it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, like we said, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or if you'd like to get to know Lindsey more. You can also do that through our social media as well. But until next time, we will be. I don't think we have settled on our topic for next week, but we will surely be shooting out another podcast. Also, we did want to mention that we have been picked up by Apple iTunes podcasts, right? Let's see.
Yeah.
So we're on iTunes.
iTunes.
Uh,
Yeah.
so that's really neat. So we're
Yeah.
getting everything set up there.
But if you are listening on iTunes and you'd like to see this beautiful video that we're creating of our faces, we are available on Podbean in video format.
Yes.
And we dressed up to do for this. So,
so feel free to
make
watch
it
the
worth
video.
our while.
Oh boy. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us for this episode of Soaring Through the Depths with Andrea Lauren and Lindsey Marin. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.